Well, they better put an offensive line around them. They better discover how to run the ball in Denver. Their defense better be better than they were last year because they weren't a great defense. And the pressure is on John Elway and the head coach there for Case. Case had a good season. But when you look at it in totality, the jury is still out on him. There is no Jenna, anybody else can jump on the Case band. There's a reason why he's 30 years old, and this is the first time he's been named the starter starting to a season or a franchise. And why did Denver, if this is their guy, why did they give him 2 years?
And why did they pursue Kirk Cousins?
Now, Mike Glennon, last year, Chicago gave him $16 million. So now Denver, after Case, and Case had better stats than Glennon would ever have, they only gave him 2 years at $18 million. So for me, they was a little buyer beware in acquiring Case Keenum. He was definitely playing BRC.
And the other thing you mentioned, when the parts of Denver that need to operate at a higher level for him to be successful, the one position group you didn't mention is the wide receivers. Like, once upon a time, we thought Demaryius Thomas, Emmanuel Sanders, that's one of the best pair of wide receivers in the NFL.
Yes.
And what it's turned out is, while Emmanuel Sanders, I think, has continued to maintain a pretty high level despite mediocre quarterback play, Demaryius Thomas, much like Julius Thomas, the tight end that was there, his production seemed to go along with Peyton Manning's. Demaryius Thomas stayed. Julius Thomas ended up going to Jacksonville. But for both of those guys, once they got away from top-tier Peyton Manning, their production dropped off significantly. So Case does not have the easiest situation. It's obviously a better situation than had he signed with the Jets. So I think it's obviously not as good of a situation as if the Vikings had tried to keep him and he stayed there. But the other thing is this, that John Elway is saying this. I think it is absolutely on the board that Denver still drafts a quarterback.
Oh,
Denver's still sitting there at number 5.
Absolutely.
Like, Case Keenum is the starter right now, and they're shopping Trevor Siemian. He's the guy. But if they like Baker Mayfield, or if Josh Rosen falls to them, or if Josh Allen falls to them and they like him, like, I would imagine right now it is more likely than not that Denver does draft a quarterback at number 5, assuming quarterbacks don't go 1, 2, 3 in the draft.
And in the A's, we talked about who does the Jets, them making that trade, who does it affect? It affected the Browns because it affects their flexibility and also gives them leverage if they want to get out of the 4 pick to acquire more picks. But it affects the Denver Broncos.
Do either of you feel Case Keenum can take this Denver team to the next level?
Listen, if Case was in Minnesota, and Minnesota's got a lot better team, there would still be huge question marks about Case. All right? Is Case better than the guys they had? Yes, but the guys they had, they were awful. To me, Case is never going to be in the top 16 quarterbacks in the NFL. Based on his talent, based on his limited arm talent, that's where I think Case will always be.
Here is the one part of this that is just an unknown. Think about what happened in San Francisco last year. The moment they went from the dregs of quarterbacking to just good quarterbacking. Jimmy Garoppolo, I think, will be very good, but he wasn't great statistically in the final 5 games. But the rest of the team was like, oh, my God, we're not totally ruined by our quarterback, and everyone started to play better. How much better will everyone on Denver be when they don't have one of, if not the worst quarterback situations in the league? How much better will they be when they're not trotting out below replacement level? So if they do get to the next level, yes, Case will be a part of it, but it will also be because some of the other guys, the defensive players CC mentioned, the wide receivers I mentioned, start getting back to their highest level of play, which none of them were at last year.
Yeah, I disagree with you. I believe that Jimmy Garoppolo is a force multiplier. I do not believe Case Keenum is a force multiplier. Jimmy Garoppolo, what he did in that locker room, to the culture, through the staff, into the players, I believe that's what you want your franchise quarterback. I don't see that with Case, and Jimmy is a better vocal leader than Case is.
All right.
Because I believe that Todd Bowles and the general manager there, that their careers are in the balance. And when they are in the balance and you don't have a quarterback, and you haven't had a quarterback for 3 years, we know that they made the mistake in Christian Hackenberg. He'll never be a starting quarterback. Bryce Petty, he will never be a starting quarterback unless someone gets hurt. So they've made mistakes in drafting guys before. They're in the situation you can't compete in the AFC East without a quarterback. They signed Josh McCown 1 year, another Band-Aid on something that needs stitches and surgery. But with Teddy Bridgewater, got him injury, 1 year deal. So they don't long-term have dollars committed to a quarterback. Like, you don't want to be in the top part of the draft. And Todd Bowles, this team outperformed itself last year. Imagine if they had a competent quarterback. So for for me, you have to get into the mix. They had to get into the top 4. They were able to do that by giving up those 3 second-round picks.
So if the Jets get their franchise quarterback out of this trade, they could have traded 5 second-round picks in addition to the number 6 pick, and everyone would be fine with it. It is all going to be, do they get their guy? The reason that my gut reaction when I saw this, when I think it was Adam Schefter broke this news, and I saw it and I saw what they gave up, the reason my gut reaction was they didn't move up into the top 2. What we've seen with the major quarterback moves of recent times, whether it's RG3, whether it's trade that ended up being Carson Wentz, the trade that ended up being Mitch Trubisky, is the trade that ended up being Jared Goff, was teams moving up to 1 or 2. The Jets moved up to 3. Now, if the Giants stay there and the Giants don't draft a quarterback, then it's like you moved up to 2. But I believe the second pick of this draft is going to be a quarterback. I believe either the Giants are taking one or they will be offered a king's ransom from a team that wants to move in front of the Jets, in front of the Broncos, to go get a quarterback.
And that team might be Buffalo.
Sure, and Buffalo, it seems, is stockpiling assets in order to be able to make that move. So if you are looking at getting the 3rd available quarterback in this draft, you either have to believe there are 3 franchise quarterbacks in this draft, which has happened once since the famous '83 draft with Elway, Kelly, and Marino, and that was in 2004 with Eli, Rivers, and Big Ben. Or you have to believe one of these other 2 teams is going to screw up. And that's what makes me nervous. If you
can't rely on the latter.
If you're just going to, you can't just rely on one of these teams to mess it up.
For over 2 months, Mel Kiper's been saying Cleveland's going to draft Josh Allen. They're going to take him. He's not the highest ranked, but he's been saying that. The reason why he's on their board is not because Mel thinks he's better. The reason why he's on their board is because he's been hearing people say they're going to draft him. So let's just say
he's right.
Let's say that he's right. The Giants, you think they're going to take Sam Darnold?
Sure.
Okay, your guy's sitting right there for the Jets.
Josh Rosen. Yep, absolutely.
So for me, it was the right pick because they're going to get a guy. I believe because people have Josh Allen higher ranked than some other people, that he's going to slip into the top 2, which is going to allow the Jets to have their guy available at number 3. For 3 number 2s, you can have my first-round pick. When I don't have a quarterback, if the guy is there who I'm in love with, then that is a great trade when the Jets get their quarterback.
I thought Ryan Leaf made a really interesting point when he was on last week. And he was like, how many franchise quarterbacks are there in the NFL? 12? We want to call it 12? 14 at the most? Maybe 10? Let's call it 12. We really believe there's going to be 4 new ones from this draft class? People are talking about that all of a sudden we're going to have 3, 4, maybe 5 new franchise quarterbacks when there's only 12 alive. History would tell us you're lucky if there's 2. That the best quarterback classes have 2 franchise guys. Most only have 1. And so now listen, if the Jets have intel that, hey, we love 2 quarterbacks and one of the Browns are going to take someone that isn't one of those guys, then I understand it. I find it highly unlikely, though, that the Jets love 3 quarterbacks, especially because they're so different stylistically. Like if you love Baker Mayfield, would just love Josh Rosen.
You don't fall in love with the style. I think you come comfortable with their skill set. It's not a matter of we're looking for a guy who scrambles, we're looking for a pocket passer, we're looking for a guy who can play. So you're not falling for a style because they're not a offense that's dictated on a guy playing a certain way. They can take a small guy, they can take a big guy, they can take a guy that's going to develop. So I think that is a little bit different in trying to evaluate how good are these guys going to be at the next level?
There's also not a clear-cut 1, 2, 3, 4. I mean,
Correct.
Throw Lamar in there, too. So I think that's part of the reason that if you're a Jets fan, you could be enamored by this because there isn't, hey, that guy is definitely number 1. I mean, Cleveland could take Sam Darnold. Like this is what we're hearing, but we just absolutely don't know at this point.
I also want to know, CeCe, because you like this trade from the Jets' perspective. I love this trade from the Colts' perspective. Sometimes you can believe both teams did well. If you're the Colts, you were never taking a quarterback. You have Andrew Luck coming back. I believe the Colts...
They had to trade all that pick. It didn't make sense for them because they're going to take a defensive player.
Agreed, but what they got in trading out of it, to only move back 3 spots. So you're still getting
all of that.
A blue chipper, and then to get the 37th, the 48th, and next year's second-round pick. I think with the 37th and 48th, the Colts potentially could move back into the back of the first round. Like, the Colts need talent. They need players. They need a running back. They need a couple offensive linemen. They probably need a whole new a set of defensive players. Like, for the Colts, I think this is, in my eyes, I don't know where you stand, this is no questionly.
Well, they had to based on need and what's on the board. That was a smart for them to get out of that pick because they don't need a quarterback. Let someone get in there who needs a quarterback, which drove up the price, and they got a nice, they fetched a nice a group of picks for that pick to get out of that spot.
Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get the latest from the show. Also, be sure to check out more of the best clips from First Things First, or go watch a few segments from our other shows on FS1.